So this is the third generation of the Nike Invincible, Nike's max-stacked, cushioned, easy and long-run shoe that uses the same foam as the Racers, the Vaporfly and the Alphafly, that ZoomX foam in the midsole. And Nike has made a few targeted changes to the shoe in general to enhance the stability of it. It's going to be available from the 2nd of February for members of the Nike app, and then it'll go on general release on the 9th of February. It costs £170 in the UK, $180 in the US. It weighs in at 316 grams or 11.1 ounces in my UK size 9. That's an increase in weight on the Invincible 2, which was also an increase on the Invincible 1. That's because they've increased the stack height on the shoe. It's now 40mm at the heel, 31 at the forefoot, for the same 9mm drop as the Invincible 2, but with 1mm of extra stack height across the board. The midsole is also wider, especially around the heel, to create more stability. That's something that the Invincible has been criticised for in the past, that it's very fun and squishy, but it lacks a little bit in stability. What Nike's opted to do is to make the base even wider to create a more stable feel, and they've also redesigned the heel clip, which is now less prominent. You can't really see it so much in the shoe. It's a smaller heel clip, but it's a bit more targeted. It goes into the midsole a little bit as well to create more stability at the back of the shoe in particular. The upper has also been redesigned. You've got a new Flyknit upper with layered yarns and targeted support, again just to create that bit more structure. And actually it was quite noticeable when I first pulled on the shoe. It did feel like it was a bit more structured around the foot compared to the second version of the shoe, and it all just adds up to more stability, but maybe it will just lessen slightly the impact of the big ZoomX midsole, Nike's Peba-based foam, soft, squishy, bouncy. That's really what the Invincible has been in the past. It'll be interesting to see if the changes made to the shoe to make it a little bit more stable have taken away some of that bouncy feeling or not. You've got a rocker shape on the shoe to create a nice smooth transition, but it's not as pronounced as on some shoes like the New Balance More V4. And then you've got a waffle outsole tread with good rubber coverage there, with slightly deeper lugs and a thicker outsole in general than on the Invincible 2 to hopefully improve the durability and grip a little bit, but it's not a massive update on the previous version. So the fit of the shoe's a little bit interesting. I think in terms of length, it's perfectly fine, true to size, very similar to the old Invincible, but the fit around the heel has changed a little bit. Now, when I first pulled on the shoe, it felt like it was holding my foot a little bit more closely, and I think that is true on the front top of your foot, but around the heel I think it's slightly looser. I haven't had any trouble with rubbing myself, but I think there's a potential there. Actually, when I ran in both shoes at the same time, I could feel that hold seemed a little bit better around the heel actually in the Invincible 2, which is a bit surprising. Like I said, I haven't had any real problems. True to size fit is fine, but that heel fit is a little bit different now, something to note, I'd say. So I've done a couple of shortish runs in the Invincible 3 so far. Not been able to get out for anything too long yet because I'm just working my way back from a little niggle. But I've enjoyed running in the shoe. It still has that squishy feeling underfoot that you expect from the Invincible, but it is a bit different to the 2. It's a bigger change from the 2 to the 3 than it was from the 1 to the 2. The upper is certainly hugging the midfoot a little bit more securely. There's some concerns about the heel I mentioned in the fit, but in general the upper holds your foot more securely, and it feels slightly more directed at the heel when you're landing there as a heel striker like myself. Maybe it's just the way the heel counter extends into the foam. The foam is a little bit more compacted, so it's not splaying as much when I land there, but it just feels that little bit more directed, moves you forward a little bit more directly, not in a way that makes it like a drastically quicker shoe or anything like that, but it does change the feel of the shoe very slightly. On my second run of the shoe, I did do a longish stint running with the Invincible 2 on one foot and the 3 on the other foot, just to really gauge the change in feeling, and most of the difference to me is coming in the upper, but there is certainly a slightly more uptight feel about the Invincible 3, put it that way. The ride feels a little bit more, controlled, certainly. There's that little bit of extra stability. Invincible 2 is a little bit more about letting it all hang out, foam splaying everywhere, soft foam, but maybe a bit more relaxing and comfortable. But in general, these are small changes, I think. There's been a lot of talk about making the Invincible more stable, and it is a bit more stable. It's not something I noticed massively myself. I haven't really had concerns about stability with the Invincible 2, but you have got that feeling of the foot being cradled a little bit more effectively on the Invincible 3. I don't think it's turning it into a stability shoe, really, but I didn't have any concerns about the stability of the 2 or the 3 now, but it might make it a little bit more approachable for some people who did find the second version a bit wobbly. But otherwise, I felt the ride was pretty similar. You've got that nice, squishy, bouncy feeling from the ZoomX underfoot. It's a shoe that is lovely to tick along slowly in, but actually sometimes I look down and I'm moving a bit quicker than I'd expect because ZoomX is such a bouncy foam. But in general, it's more or less the Invincible I know and I really like, with those small changes increasing the stability. Very early verdict on the Invincible. We'll talk a lot more in our full review down the line. We're hoping to get a few more testers in for a big multi-tester review. But yeah, Invincible 3 is a good shoe. The Invincible 2 was a very good shoe. I think the changes will make it a little bit more stable. I don't know if they'll completely wipe out the issues that some people had with the instability of the shoe. And if you're someone who didn't really feel like the shoe was that unstable in previous versions, I'd load up on older versions now. I don't think the new version's a big improvement. It's a little bit heavier. The ride is largely quite similar, and the upper is... and feels good to me, but there might be some concerns about heel slippage there, and in general the upper's not a drastic improvement on the previous version. So far it's, yeah, I'd say a fairly modest update. Maybe it opens up the Invincible to more people, which is great because the ride is still very fun, very enjoyable. At the same time, it's still not a stability shoe, and if you look at some of the other max cushion shoes out there, things like the New Balance More V4 and the Asics Gel Nimbus 25, I think they have a little bit more inherent stability to them, especially the New Balance More V4, that pronounced rocker ride and the sidewalls of foam that cradle the foot. We'll be comparing the Invincible much more to those two shoes in our full review, but at the moment, what I said in the past about these three shoes is probably still true. It really, picking between them might come down to ride feel. The Invincible is that squishier, bit bouncier, bit more fun, bit less stable. Nimbus is a bit more of a balanced ride, nice smooth ride, still quite soft, but not as soft as the Nike. And then the More V4 is a duller foam, but with a very pronounced rocker. That's really the feeling of you get from the ride is a nice smooth rocking motion rather than the big sinking and bounce you get from the Invincible. But yeah, they're all really good shoes, slightly different ride feels. The Invincible is now a bit more stable, which changes the conversation slightly, but at the same time it is still a very high stat of what is quite a wobbly foam. And if you've had problems with stability in the shoe in the past, I'm not entirely sure they'll be fixed now. Like I say, I haven't had those problems, so it's hard for me to speak to it too much, but it still is a very fun, enjoyable shoe for me to use for easy runs, just with that slightly different design around the upper especially. That's our first take on the Invincible 3. Let us know what you think in the comments below. We're going to do a load more running, a load more testing, get some full comparisons to other shoes in our full review. Let us know what you really want to see this shoe compared to. Please do like, subscribe, ring the little bell, and we'll see you next time.